So the first point we're going to look at is before the equivalence point, for example, 5 milliliters of EDTA added. How would we find what the P, right, the concentration of metal ion is in solution? Well, we can first calculate the number of moles of calcium, then the moles of EDTA that are added, and then those just react. So we'll have calcium 2 plus EDTA forming our complex. Right, that's ultimately what's going to happen here. And we're going to have an excess of calcium, and that excess of calcium is just going to be what the concentration of calcium is. So there's a few different ways to do this. One would just be to calculate the millimoles of each. A different way is to look at sort of a streamlined calculation here, where we take what's the fraction of calcium left, multiply it by the initial concentration, and then multiply it again by how much it was diluted by. Okay, and so the way to do this sort of streamlined calculation is our fraction of calcium left is going to be based on the equivalence point. So we know that 25 milliliters would be equivalence point, but we've only gotten 5 milliliters of the way there. So we take the equivalence point minus the volume that has actually been added. That's the calcium that's left behind, right? Basically 20 milliliters worth of calcium of our original solution. And so that fraction divided by the value of the equivalence point makes this, the fraction here. So 20 over 25, that's how much calcium is left. Our initial concentration of calcium was 0.040 molar. And the dilution factor is we started with 50 milliliters. We've added another 5 milliliters, so we're at 55 milliliters. All right, so this is just a few steps all wrapped up in one. You can do it step by step if that's easier for you to remember conceptually what's happening. But this is one equation, you can get all of it all at once. So 0.0291 molar is the value here. And then we can plug that into the P calcium to get 1.54. Right, so that's negative log base 10 of the 0.0291 molar. All right, so that's an example of how we do the before the equivalence point. Basically what's happening is this is just a different way of looking at our millimoles of calcium. So I should say initial millimoles of calcium minus our added EDTA millimoles of EDTA divided by the final volume. Slightly different way of looking at things. All right, so in the next video, we'll look at the equivalence point.